Welcome to African Tales by Oge. The night air was thick and wet with the smell of mud and rotten leaves. Her bare feet pounded against the rough forest path, heart hammering against her ribs. The shadows of towering trees swallowed her as she ran. A gunshot cracked behind her. She stumbled, rolling down the slope, crashing through the undergrowth until her body slammed into a shallow, dirty pool of water. Mud splashed up her face. She coughed, trembling, hair plastered to her skin. And then there he was, her husband, the man she once called the love of her life, standing over her, gun in hand, the cold black barrel aimed at her head. He pulled back the trigger. Amara had met Chike at university. She was studying business administration, he was studying medicine. From the first day they spoke, it was as though fate had locked them together. They were inseparable, the lovebirds of campus. But Chike was jealous. It was almost flattering at first, the way he would frown when other men greeted her. But over time it became exhausting. Still, she loved him, and after graduation, they married. Amara flourished. She landed a top job at a prestigious advertising company in Lagos, earning six figures monthly. She was confident, elegant, respected, a true boss lady. And to the outside world, Chike was a brilliant and reputable doctor, serving at one of the city's most distinguished hospitals. But behind that spotless white coat lay secrets no stethoscope could detect. His jealousy turned dark. One day, during an important work presentation, Amara's phone was on silent. Chike called her several times with no answer, but the time she returned his call, her male colleagues were laughing in the background. That was all it took. By the time she got home, Chike was furious. He beat her that night, and the night after. Then came the apologies, white roses, her favorite, an expensive white dress. She would smile faintly and say she forgave him, even as her body hid the bruises. When Amara became pregnant, her office hosted a grand dinner. Chike insisted she wear the beautiful white dress he had bought for her. She did, glowing even with her small baby bump. At the dinner, a male colleague complimented her. Chike's smile froze. Before she could give her acceptance speech for an award, he whispered, "We are leaving now." She refused, saying that she needs to give her speech. Chike grabbed her tight by the hand and said again, "We are leaving now." While he was still dragging her by the hand, she was called upon to give her speech. When they got home, Chike revealed the devil he truly was. "I told you to leave," he barked. "Why didn't you?" Amara's voice trembled. "I said I need to give my speech and that I could have lived afterwards." The rest of the words were swallowed by a sharp crack of Chike's palm across her face. One slap, then a blow, and another. Pregnant or not, he showed no mercy. His hand tangled in her hair, yanking her forward as she screamed. He dragged her down the hallway and shoved her into a small, bare room, locking the door behind her. That night, she laid on the cold floor in the dark, pain twisting through her body. By morning, Chike appeared again, this time holding white roses, his usual marks of hallowed apologies in place. He crouched in front of her and said, "Baby, I'm sorry. You know I didn't mean it." But as he reached to lift her up from the floor, his gaze froze. A dark patch stained the back of her dress. "You're bleeding." His voice cracked, his eyes widened in shock. He knew instantly he has gone too far. Without another word, he scooped her into his arms and he rushed her to the hospital. Amara was placed on strict bed rest. Weeks after, against all odds, she gave birth to a baby girl, Zara. For a while, Things seemed calm, but the violence returned. One rainy night, Amara came home very late from work. Chike was waiting, his voice low but deadly. Where have you been? Work ran late, she answered, trying to keep her tone calm. The slap came before the sentence even ended, splitting her lips. This time, she responded, screaming back at him through the pain. The next day, she called her office and requested some leave to recover. 2 weeks were granted. When the first 2 weeks ended, Amara packed her things ready to return to work. But Chike, her doctor, shook his head. You still need rest, he said firmly. I am fine, Chike. I need to get back to work, she insisted. He didn't argue further. So she went to work that day. By midday, fever clamped down on her body, her skin hot and clammy. Her knees buckled as waves of dizziness hit her. She excused herself and went straight to her doctor, Chike. After examining her, it's a stress-related illness. You need another 2 weeks. He typed up a medical report and emailed it directly to her office. 2 weeks later, Amara told him, I feel fine now. But Chike smiled faintly and said, take another 2 weeks. You need to be strong for your family. She reluctantly agreed. When the second 2 weeks ended, making a full month away from work, he repeated the same line. 2 more weeks, Amara. By the sixth week, unease gunned at her. Her office began calling, their voices sharp with concern over her prolonged absence. Something wasn't right. One morning, she woke up early, dressed neatly for work, prepared Zara for school, and made breakfast. They were halfway through eating when Chike noticed her outfit. Where are you going to? I'm resuming work today, she replied. I'm tired of staying at home. My head needs to focus. My office is already worried. You're not ready. You need some rest. I'm fine, Chike, perfectly fine, and I'm going back to work. That was when his hand slammed onto the dining table, rattling the plate. You must quit your job today. Zara froze, her spoon halfway through her mouth. Amara's eyes flickered towards her daughter. Zara, go upstairs and get your school bag, she said. Zara stood, but instead of climbing the stairs, she crept into a corner where she could see everything. Chike grabbed Amara by the neck. You will write that resignation letter today. I make enough money for us. I don't want you to work again. When he finally stormed out for work, Amara noticed Zara crying in a hiding spot. Why are you crying, my baby? She asked, pulling her close. Mommy, why is Daddy always beating you? The words cut deeper than any slap ever could. In that moment, Amara knew she couldn't let her daughter grow up in this shadowed house of fear. She packed her bag, then Zara's. She left a short note on the dining table. By the time Chike returned that evening, the mansion felt different. Too quiet. The golden chandelier still glittered, but the laughter, the footsteps, the warmth were gone. The next morning, Chike was already at her office before the sun had fully risen. In his hands, a bouquet of white roses. He stood stiffly by the receptionist's desk, his eyes fixed on the entrance, waiting, hoping. Then she walked in. Her heels clicked against the polished floor, her head held high, her beauty striking, her confidence unshaken. Her colleagues greeted her cheerfully, and she returned their smile with ease, as though the man standing there with the flowers was invisible. Chike's jaw tightened. Jealousy burned his chest, but he forced himself to stay calm. When she finally approached, he leaned forward. I'm sorry, he said quickly, almost desperate. From now on, everything will change. I'll be a better husband and a better father to Zara. She stopped. Her eyes looked on his, cold, steady, unflinched. That's all you ever said. For 6 years, her voice cut like glass. I'm tired, Chike. Tired of this marriage. Tired of the way you treat me. The hitting, the insult, The abuse. I am done. You'll be hearing from my lawyer. He will bring the divorce papers for you to sign. Without another word, she took the roses from his hand. For a moment, she looked down at them, beautiful, pure, yet meaningless. Then she deliberately, slowly, dropped them into the dustbin. The petals crumbled under the weight of rejection. Lifting her chin, Amara walked into her office, leaving Chike standing there, clinching nothing but silence. Later that evening, after work, Amara walked towards her car in the dimly lit parked area. She froze when she saw Chike standing beside him, his eyes cold and unreadable. She walked up to him, her voice firm. "What do you want?" "I'm not going to sign those papers," he said, his tone sharp. "Oh, you will sign them." She shot back. "I'm not going back to you. I refuse to live in that kind of marriage. The abuse, the fear. I won't let Zara grow up in a home where she is scared of her father, where her childhood is poisoned with these memories. I'm leaving you for good. My mind is made up." Chike's jaw tightened, his eyes narrowing. "So, it's him, isn't it?" She frowned. "Excuse me. That colleague of yours, there is another man, right?" he said. "You are out of your mind," she snapped, trying to open the car door, but he stepped in front of her, blocking the way. Then, without warning, his hand shot out and stamped around her neck. He slammed her back against the wall, his face inches from her. "I will kill you before I let you be with another man," he hissed, his voice low and venomous. "If I can't have you, you are as good as dead." Summoning her strength, Amara shoved him off. "You're insane." She spat. "You're a psycho." She yanked open the car door, slipped inside, and sped away, leaving him standing in the shadows. Months passed, and Amara heard nothing from her husband. He had vanished from her life, not showing up anywhere. One afternoon, she glanced at her wristwatch and realized she was late to pick up her daughter from school. She grabbed her bag, slammed her office door shut, and hurried down to the garage where her car was parked. Fishing her keys from her purse, she fumbled. The key slipped from her hand and scattered to the ground. She bent down to pick it up, and as she lifted her head, she froze. A man stood directly in front of her, dressed in a black hood, a gun aimed straight at her. Her breath caught in her throat. Before he could pull the trigger, a voice echoed behind her. "Amara." It was her colleague from the office, holding out her phone. "You forgot this." Amara turned. She took the phone, and when she looked back, the hooded man was gone. Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded so hard she could barely breathe. She couldn't explain what had just happened. She couldn't even form the words without saying a thing. She slid into her car, started the engine, and sped away. The image of that gun still burning in her mind. From that night on, Amara began seeing shadows outside her window. She was certain that Chike had hired a killer. Out of fear, she sent Zara and her brother abroad for safety. She had a plan to fake her own death. Knowing the killer now had her address, she prepared for the night she would strike. Alone in the house, she cut herself just enough to draw blood. She smeared it on the floor, smashed furniture, scattered objects, and left signs of a violent struggle. When the killer arrived, he believed someone had finished the job. He called Chike, telling him it was done. Chike sent him the rest of his payment and ordered him to dispose the body. The assassin agreed, never suspecting Amara had it all planned out. Days later, Chike began noticing strange things in his home. White rose petals scattered across the floor. Some evenings, he returned from work to find a cooked meal, his wife's favorite, waiting on the dining table. Other times, there were faint blood stains on the kitchen counter. or the TV playing her favorite channel, music drifting from the living room. The killer swore she was dead, refusing to return the money. But Chike's fear grew, convinced his wife's ghost was haunting him. Then one night, his phone buzzed. It was Amara, her face and body painted like a corpse. She had posed as her own dead body and sent it to him. Chike froze. Terror gripped him. He sat, trying to make sense of it. A shadow flickered past his window, heart racing. He grabbed his gun, bolted out the back door. And there she was, Amara, alive, trying to escape into the bush behind the house. He fired twice, missed. Then the chase began. She ran until she stumbled into a dirty, stagnant pool, the same pool she had seen earlier in her nightmares. Chike lunged, grabbing her neck and forcing her head into the fall water. She thrashed wildly, kicking him hard between his legs. He grunted in pain, but before she could scramble away, he tackled her again, punching, shoving, cursing. Her hand found the cold metal of gun laying in the mud. Without thinking, she pulled the trigger. The shot exploded through the night. Chike's eyes widened, his body jerking before collapsing beside her. Blood rippled into the muddy water, mixed with the filth. She sat there trembling, the gun slipping from her finger. Moments later, police siren wailed in the distance. Neighbors had called after hearing the gunfire. Officers arrived, weapons drawn. They found Amara bleeding from her shoulder, Chike lying lifeless in the pool. One officer secured the gun, while the other helped her to get to her feet. Then cold metal cuffs clicked around her wrists. She was taken in for questioning, suspected at first of intentional murder. The small cold room smelled faintly of damp paper. A single bulb buzzed overhead as Detective Ojo sat across from Amara, his pen tapping against a file.
Mrs. Amara Chike, you shot your husband. Why?
Because he was going to kill me.
She described the chase, the pull, the struggle, every kick, every punch. Her hands trembled, but her eyes stayed on the detective. A knock came at the door. Another officer leaned in, handing Ojo a report. Two neighbors confirmed they have heard her scream many nights. He said, one saw him hit her last month in the driveway. Ojo glanced at the report, then at her bruised wrist and the fresh gash on her shoulder. He leaned back, exhaling. Looks like self-defense. Minutes later, the cuffs were removed. Weeks later, Amara stood at Chike's grave with Zara. The little girl clung to her hand. Was Daddy a bad man? Zara asked softly. Amara's throat tightened. Daddy loved me the wrong way, she whispered. We must love better. They walked away together, the white roses on the grave swaying gently in the wind.